Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD webinar. Tonight is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis, and I'll just take you through what's coming up this week. Tomorrow we're going to go through using pivot points to identify key intraday support and resistance levels. That will be at 7 PM Sydney time tomorrow. And then on Thursday we have further live Forex market review, 7 PM Sydney time. So that's what's coming up. All right, before we get into it, if you can read through the risk disclaimer, any questions to the chat box or the question box. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, so more than welcome to join us in the webinar. I've given you the link there, but if you're chatting to me, I can't see what you're talking to me about. So, all right, everybody, please read through the risk disclaimer before we move along. All right, let's move along. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities, and I am a full-time Forex trader. I've been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years, mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And through the week, you can connect with me on our website. Go to acy.com, Market News tab, or go to our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, or you can connect with me as well on Twitter or LinkedIn. As well, through the week, you can connect with me in our Telegram channel. If you want to get access to that, just contact Nathan Bray. I'll put his details in the chat in a moment. As well, if you want to get set up with my chart layouts and templates that I use in MT4, then you can get access to that. Just simply contact Nathan too. So any questions, just contact Nathan. He can help you with a demo account or a live account, setting up my chart layouts, or getting access to the Telegram channel. So his details are in the chat there. All right, let's get into tonight's webinar. So I will just review what news items coming over the next 24 hours. We just had all the flash manufacturing and flash services data for the Eurozone in the UK. We do have coming up at 11:45, I'm just going to go through the red items, US flash manufacturing and services PMI data coming out at 11:45. And then into tomorrow at noon, we have the New Zealand official cash rate, expecting a 25 basis point rise there. And later in the afternoon there for the UK pound CPI year on year, expecting inflation to drop down there. So go to Forex Factory and have a good read through. That's pretty much what's coming out over the next 24 hours or so. All right, hi there, Izu. And yeah, if you're talking about stock indexes, they have been moving up. All right, let's get to charts. We will start with the dollar index. And we are definitely seeing, from a weekly perspective here, a move up from the bottom of this range. Can we move up to the top of the range? Now, it's worth noting, go to the monthly chart, that there are two tops here. I'm going to put in the lowest one, 103.81. So we're heading towards these tops. So we really need to find some strength to move above those tops, because those tops could definitely hold as resistance as we're moving back up. All right. So it's not a given that we're going to move up to the top of the range. We have to negotiate these highs to the left, and there's also some weekly resistance here too. So we are seeing a clear uptrend on the day chart here. Higher bottom to higher top, and other higher bottoms forming today. And somebody's saying I can't see my screen. All right, let me just pause. I always have some technical issue. How's that? Is that working now? All right, let me just backtrack. Apologies. So just on Forex Factory here, coming up this evening, 11:45 p.m. for the US, we've got their flash manufacturing services data. Into tomorrow, we've got the New Zealand cash rate at 12 p.m. These are Queensland time, expecting 25 basis point rise there. And then UK inflation figures at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, that's what's on the news front for the next 24 hours. All right, getting back into the charts. All right, so I was just discussing on the monthly chart here on the index, dollar index. We do have these monthly highs to the left. They're not in focus if you look at the weekly chart, but they're very in focus on the monthly chart. We need to move above those tops as we move back up. The broader range is from up here to down here. And day chart here from the bottom of that weekly range, we're moving up in high tops and bottoms here now. But yeah, 103.81 is the monthly resistance area. So we definitely need to negotiate that area to get up to the top of the weekly range. So we could fail there potentially, depending on what news comes out this week. It's not a given that we're going to move up to the top of the range. Structurally on the pairs to the US dollar, they are potentially holding to their downtrend, especially the pound on the euro dollar, but we could stop here and then move back down. So it's not a given. And what we are seeing, if we look at the S&P 500, is we've been moving up to a higher point here. You know, if we move to the monthly chart, though, it is still, well, we have a bit of a top there, but I'm using this range from there to there as the whole range that we're moving up into. So we are potentially still in an area where we can fail. We're got all these weekly tops that I've been discussing. There's another weekly top just over there. I should drag that over to that weekly top. That's the whole weekly area of resistance there. And hopefully you can see that that's where we're stopping at. So whilst we've been moving up there on the S&P 500, we're still in the weekly band of highs there. So it is still potentially heavy going for the buyers, but we are holding to a day chart uptrend there. So I don't know if you can really go short at the moment. Going long where price is as well is a little bit tricky because you clear that resistance there. So it's a very difficult instrument to trade at the moment. We do have the FOMC statement coming out Thursday morning, which might clear things up a bit, but it is potentially in an uptrend there on the day chart. All right, so you know, if you're long from lower down, you should be monitoring to see if that can just hold its trend. I don't think there's a trigger there yet to be a seller. It is holding to an uptrend at the moment, but it is in a clear area of resistance. So it is a tricky thing at the moment. All right, let's maybe look at the euro pairs first. We'll head into the euro dollar. Now, I did put out on Telegram today to watch the 108.31 level, or even the 62% level of the weekly range at 108.48 when we had the Eurozone news coming out, but we never got up into those high levels. We could certainly get up to 108.31 today. So that 108.31 level is this area of broken support. It is, though, just structurally holding its trend here. So, and we haven't had a day down. So we may not get back up to 108.31, but that would be a level I would watch if we do spike back up today. All right, so for our chart here, this is the range of last week. Only managing to get to the 50% point at the moment. That's why I think we could see a retest of the 108.31 level or the 62% level if we get some positive news for the US side. If we don't, we'll probably come down and test the low of last week. So at the moment, we've been having a bit of a rundown after the Euro release of news. I just want to go back to the 4-hour. You know, if I was looking, I would prefer to see a new spike up to 108.31, but there's the 4-hour range at the moment on the smaller. I'm just going to take that fib off. That's the current downtrend on the 4-hour chart. I'd be monitoring a rally. back up to 108.21 if it could offer it within the 4-hour structure there would be great. If the news goes nuts when it comes out later, getting a look at the 108.31 level. All right, so downtrend on the daily chart, I would be just looking to see whether within this 4-hour structure at the moment, can we move up to the 79% level? That's at 108.21, and then see if price can hold there for turnarounds. Now, over the next 24 to 48 hours, depending where price finishes today, if we finish down today and we're testing the low of last week, by the end of the day, look at 10800 now to be resistance on a rally. All right, so I always look to sell a rally within the trend. The chart trend is down at the moment, so looking to sell a rally if you can see one. Euro yen. Now I'm starting on the monthly chart here because whilst you're going to see the day chart trend is up, there's a significant high here from back in 2014 that we've been above, been back below, and we're still struggling at that level. So whilst the trend may be up, trends are going to finish at significant levels of support or resistance, and that's the significant area that you need to be aware of. You don't see it on the weekly chart, so it's at let me double check the level. It is at 149.77. I discussed it on the weekend. So watch for failure on a retest up there. You can see today's candle. We tried to move above it yesterday. Today's candle is negative. You see the day chart trend is up here, but if we moved above and then we traded down, if you look at the range, 62% area there, we could have actually sold down. This could be a rally on the weekly chart here. Sold down a rally back to retest that monthly high to put in a lower top on the weekly there to move back down. All right. Now, you could look at this in two ways. You could look to the sell side. I'm looking at the sell side in terms of that significant top. You could look to the buy side. So whilst I'm structuring this to the downside at the moment, looking at 62 level, 149.51 and the monthly high area. We'll just talk about the sell side first of all. You could start to look for a 4-hour downtrend to form. Over the next 24 hours, you could look for another retest of 149.77 and fail. So Slavy saying the Nikkei dropped today. So yeah, the yen could get some strength. So maybe, we're having a topping out process and the yen's going to get some strength. We'll have to wait and see. But over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, you may see this drop, come back up for a retest and hold. Now on the other side of the market, depending on what side you're butting on, if we just look at the other side, this monthly top over here, 148.39 and day support there. Price may just come back down into this area. Look at my right tool. Price may just come back down because that's a higher top in the day chart. Price may just come back down to support, hold, and then move back up this way. So price could do one of two things in its position at the moment. I'd be more inclined to look if I could get a retest of that monthly top, because if we do decline, that would offer, of course, if we keep failing at the monthly top, then I'd have to, favor the downside, and trying to trade close to the monthly top if we are going to move down would offer potentially good risk to reward. If we only come back down to support here, you've still got then resistance to contend with back to the upside. So I'll just be monitoring the 4-hour chart and see whether or not we get a retest. We have actually retested it today from a 15-minute chart basis. See how price came down, tested, fell down. So, and that's where last week's high is as well. So I would most definitely be looking in that area. Last week's high is at 149.79. The monthly top's at 149.77. I would definitely be watching there for another retest if it can come around. All right, you may have already seen the area and got short already, but it's now coming into daily supports. So you don't want to be selling into support. This could definitely offer support. So if you're more on the buy side, coming down to 149.26, which is this day chart top here. That could offer support intraday today to move back up. So it's not in an area where you want to go short right now because that is support. If you're more to the upside bias, then you could be looking for a reversal in this area to trade back up. Euro pound, high time frame trends, for example, the weekly is down here. So in the day's consolidatory. So the high time frame trend is down. I said in my video this morning, we've been up to a high today of 87.18. I said watch 87.18 to 87.22 because that's the weekly resistance area where these weekly lows are, 1 and 2. And you can see last week's high was 87.20. So we're potentially just holding the range here to the 4-hour chart. So if price can get into this area, 87.18 to 22, that would be the area to watch for reversal back down. So looking for price to come up. Trade back down to support. Now, there's a clear range there. You could be using my range trade method, draw a fib from high to low of the range. And you simply sell at the top of the range, stop goes at 127R above, you target the bottom of the range. All right, so we're in a fraction short, or you could wait for price to get there and then can you see a lower time frame turnarounds, but it's very range bound. You've got to trade it like it's a range. So if you like the euro pound, that's what I'll be looking for there. All right, let's get into the pound pairs. Pound has actually broken the low of last week. This week, so we're having another week down. So here's the weekly chart. Still in an uptrend here, but the key thing is this double top area, we're holding below it. We've traded above it yesterday, but today we couldn't trade at that level. It's 124.48. So I know that's a higher top, but I don't care about that. I care more about what price is doing in this area here. If we're trading below there and respecting the area now as resistance, there's every chance that we could move down to where weekly support is down here. Now the day trend is down, it's a bit consolidatory. If we can clear these 3 lows to the left, we may well see a much more aggressive move to the downside. We need to break these lows. Current support low there is at 123.67, and there's one there. That's last week's low at 123.91. So a bit of support there that the market needs to break. Don't be selling into support, know where it is. For our chart, again, if you're not already short, see today's high here got a fraction short of 124.48. We could spike up there today for sure when the US news comes out. I would still be watching for a rally. That's the lower top on the 4-hour chart to the current low. Then I look at the 62 to 79% area for a rally if the market can offer it to get short. I don't short the low of the move. I'm always looking to short a rally. So we're at the low of the move at the moment. And if it keeps moving down, I'll just keep dragging my fib down. But the 79% low is at 124.53 and 124.48 is that double top area. So that area is the key area. We haven't been able to get there today. There's today's high, fraction short. So all that's telling me now is that the sellers are coming in ahead of that level. And yes, we've broken the low of last week. So I'm not going to chase the low of the day. I would look up here if we got up there today. Whether or not we can do that, I don't know. If we trade down all day now, we're kind of halfway at least into the range of the day. Let me just drag that down. Today's projected low is at 123.61, a little bit below day support at 123.67. So what I would be looking for, if we do trade down today over the next 24 hours, we clearly close below 124 today. Then look for 124 to start to offer resistance on the next rally. You want to start to look for the next rally on some of these pairs at the moment. They're already 3/4 of the way down for the day. Trying to trade 3/4 of the way down for the day is not the best idea. Have a clear idea what the trend is and then look to sell a rally whenever that occurs over the next 24 hours. All right, pound yen. Last week I put out, can we fail at the monthly resistance level up here, 172.13. I think I put that on Thursday, that day there. We hit it on Friday, we hit it on Monday, we hit it today. Trading down today. So we're kind of locked between day support at the moment and monthly resistance and daily resistance at the top. All right. Hopefully some of you were aware of that resistance up there and maybe got short. 4 hour at the moment, it is range bound. You can see all these 4 hour lows that we're heading towards. Probably need a flip of structure here at the moment, because if you're wanting to get short because of the monthly resistance, you need support to break, and it's not breaking, hasn't broken down here. It's been holding a support. So there's two sides of the market to play here. You could look at this area to be support for another challenge of resistance, and can it break through? All right. With the pound dollar being weak, this may bring the pound yen down, or you want to see this break below and potentially then see that daily support 171.17 become resistance through the week to trade down. All right, now it might not do that. What it could do is it could break support. So it might break support, like, for example, if you understand fibs, a bit of a lesson here. We could trade down here now, break support, move to the 127R. So sometimes price will, first of all, drop down to the 127R. All right, breaks the trend structure, and then draw the fib in for the rally. So we may still come up for a rally. We false break support. We come up to a 79% level area and the monthly and daily resistance, and then it fails there on another test. All right, that would be my preferred option. So you can sell at a high level, but the market will be obviously right all the time. So you just have to wait and see how it can start to develop for you a downtrend there if we are failing at the top. I mean, hopefully somebody may have sold it up there, but in any event, let's hope price can be nice and offer, you know, a sell-off or a rally and then a sell-off maybe. Or if you want to be a buy to the upside, it simply holds its support here, and you can see an entry on a 15-minute chart too, then trade up. All right, this could still trade up and break resistance at the top. There's two sides to that pair at the moment. All right, so that's the pound dollar, pound yen. So into the Aussie yen. Now put this out on Telegram today. It is rather range bound, and I'm looking at this range here. It's heading back down towards the 79% of that range. Now the key levels to look at, I'm looking at the highs of months here. This is March's high, this is February's high, this is January's high. So the high that we've been testing at the moment, challenging this month, is March's high, which is just there. Start of the month, we spiked through. Over the last 3 trading days, we've been testing the March high once more. And I put out a Telegram today to watch 92.24 up to 92.43 for a potential reversal. Now, I know that day chart trend is up. This is where it can get difficult if you're new. But trends, when you're in a range and there's lots of resistance to the left here, let's say the high of March, that's the highest price anybody would pay in March. Then you've got February's and January's high. There's a whole resistance area there. This is the high of the month for May. Very high up here for the buyers. All right, so there was a rejection candle there, an inside, well, a down day kind of inside candle within the range of the Friday yesterday, and then selling off today. So this could now be potentially here. This is not textbook, but we could maybe class this as some form of double top, and as untextbook as it is, price projection would get us down to retest this low down here, the 200% level. Right, so I don't know whether that is going to come to fruition from a projection point of view, but certainly holding at resistance at the top. Now, hopefully somebody got short with us. Me and Nathan got short today. I got short at 92.25. All right, so I said in Telegram today, watch for rejection up at a retest up here on the 4-hour, which we did. And I also said on the 15-minute chart to watch for a retest. Watch for a failure. So we got our failure, breakdown, retest, and it actually worked quite perfectly. And if you're drawing a fib from that move down, nice 62%, hit the resistance level, and then it's been moving down ever since. So that would have been a good area to get in, or you could try to get in on the break of that trend line. Both would have done its job through the course of the day. All right, so can that continue down through the week? Hopefully it can. We'll have to wait and see. From a perspective of getting in, if you're not in, you know, if we trade down nicely today, I would watch 92 tomorrow to be resistance potentially. All right, we could still come back up. So you could draw a fib currently on the whole move of today and look to the 79% level. That's at 92.18. It could still definitely do that. But if we do trade below this low today, I would look tomorrow for a rally, and 92 being resistance tomorrow would be a good level if that came around. All right. Aussie dollar. All right. It's very slow going for the Aussie. It's showing you that's a higher bottom, that's then the lower top, lower bottom, lower top. It's slow grinding down here. Is it going to be able to break through support? Weekly support, day support, 66.29 down to 66.19. This could be support. If you're more to the buy side, this could hold as support to trade back up. So look for a setup on the 15-minute chart, maybe to get long. If you're to the buy side, longer term, low, higher time frames are clearly down. The monthly trend here, potentially, that's not a higher bottom yet until the end of the month if we don't take out the low. So at the moment, potentially that's a lower top. That's still a lower top, even if this becomes a higher bottom and mixed. So overall, I'm looking at this as still lower bottom, lower top, and we're trying to grind down and through. All right. Weekly trend is maybe fractionally up here, but it's definitely sideways. It does not like 68. If it does revisit 68 this week, which it could do, it's only 180 pips away, I would watch up there. But at the moment, that day chart structure is definitely showing you lower tops and bottoms. All right. It just needs to decide it wants to break through support. It's not in the best area, though, to engage. I actually shorted it at 68. And, this is why if you can pick the best areas to trade, and the best area 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago was up here, short, you don't have to worry about trying to get in for a short when it's trying to contend with support, because this is not a great area to, I don't sell into support. This can trade through supports, but you want to be short higher up in a perfect world. All right, so 4-hour trend is just turning down. Trying to get short this week on this pair, I need to see this break this area of support, break last week's low, and look then for 66.19 to 66.29, which is support at the moment, to be resistance through the week. All right. I would not sell there into support. Now you could be more favoring the buy side, thinking, okay, support's going to hold. I don't want it to hold because I got short up here. So my philosophy is I'm just holding for a break. But maybe your philosophy is you want to trade back up to the upside. Well, just look in this area at the moment for the 15-minute chart to show you that it's holding. At the moment, this is still lower tops and bottoms. But if that structure changes, it's heading down to day support here. It's in between monthly and weekly and day support at the moment. We could hold here and change the 50-minute trend structure to up, and then this could trade all the way back up if it wants to. So what side of the market are you on that pair? All right. So a number of these pairs at the moment, depending on what side you're looking at the overall trends, and sometimes it can be questionable. So you could be on either side. I'm on the downside because I saw it at 68. However, you might be on the buy side, maybe thinking that this maybe moves down to 66 and holds, and then it could trade back up above 66.19 and 66.29 and trades all the way back up the range. But the trend down the daily is up at the moment. Beg your pardon, the trend on the daily there is down at the moment. So, that's my bias. But I'm very aware that support can hold and then it turns around and moves back up. I mean, if this starts to hold, I might have to bail on my short at 68. So, but it's not the best area to be a short at the moment because you're clearly into support there. All right, let's get into the New Zealand crosses. Managed to get all the way back up to the top of the range almost. From a monthly chart perspective, there's a monthly top here. Where we were topping out all last year, we're still very sideways. Hasn't been able to break below the bottom of the range, and now we're potentially moving up to the top of the range. We've actually tested monthly resistance today, 87.20. I talked about that this morning. So you can see there on the weekly, range bound at the top of the range. From that top of the range, then you should expect maybe price would fail at the top to move back down. All right, you can see the rejection candle today. If we finish, let's say we closed right now, that's showing you we're holding at daily, monthly resistance. We could at least then be trading back down on the break of the candle low to daily supports. If that can't hold, then it does open up the question, are we moving all the way back down the range long term? All right, so this could still hold to an uptrend, but if we do reverse today, we finish pretty much where we are right now. I would anticipate we're moving at least back down to challenge support. And it's come up to fill this imbalance here. And then we've got all these highs to the left where we were struggling. So this is most definitely a sell zone. This is a perfect example of structure where price will often fail at, where it was holding kind of at structure here. It got driven up to test the high over here and failed and then collapsed. And then price is getting the same selling pressure in the same area where it failed at last time. All right. So from my perspective, it looks like we're failing here. I don't buy into resistance, so I've got two options: do nothing or look for a short. 4-hour structure is still up here at the moment, but it doesn't bother me that the structure's up. I can still look for a short. I prefer for price to trade and break that low, so the structure changes, and then come up for another test. If it could come up to that high there, 87.08, that would be approximately a 79% retracement level, and that would form some form of head and shoulder pattern there. All right, so that would be a perfect scenario. I don't really care if it doesn't, if it doesn't put in a lower bottom, I would still watch for price. Let's say it trades down to there and then heads back up. I would still watch that level for a potential right shoulder to form. But I wouldn't probably trade at the level. I'd wait for it to turn over in that area from a higher bottom. If it comes up from a lower bottom, I would trade that level on first contact. If it's coming up from a higher bottom, I will just pause and let it put the brakes on and kind of see it turn around on a 15-minute chart. So I would look for a retest. Sometimes it doesn't give a retest. We do have the New Zealand interest rate decision tomorrow. So we may just drop after the interest rate decision, or we could obviously get fueled up and run up there for another spike of that area. I wouldn't be looking for first contact entry when the New Zealand dollar or when the New Zealand rates come out. I would just step aside and see if price runs up there first of all, and then see how it deals. And if it starts to trade down, then I could look to trade. All right, so I'll just step aside when the interest rate decision comes out. And that's probably will be what my tack will be. I will just wait for the interest rate decision first and then see what happens after that. Because if it's at the entry level up here before then, I don't want to be in with no profit waiting for an interest rate decision. I want to, be careful So 2 scenarios there. Can we move up from a lower bottom? But that's the area up there to watch for a retest. All right, New Zealand dollar. Now, earlier in the day when I did a video on New Zealand, I was looking for a possible test of move up to the 63.14 level, but it pretty much failed at 6,300 level today. Now it could, after the interest rates tomorrow, come up and test 63.14. It could even come up, could hit here and fail against that high, or it could come up to the top and fail. This failure here was when we had the last interest rate decision, 50 basis point rise. Now, inflation in New Zealand has been dropping. It's in between the 2 to 3% band. Whilst they're forecasting interest rate rise, maybe we don't get one. Who knows? In any event, these would be 2 levels I would watch to the high side for a move down. This could be potentially a double top here for a long-term move down. So today we did fail at the 62% area of that strong 2-day sell-off where we've been reclaiming. All right, and for our structure is turning down here. That was actually a lower top. I'm putting in a lower bottom here, but tomorrow's event is the event to watch for. If you're not already short, hopefully this moves down to the low of last week, and then you can be at break even when the news comes out. Other than that, I would just be waiting and seeing where price sits after the event tomorrow. Okay. In an ideal world, it'd be great if you could just come up to deal up here, hold once more. I mean, it could come up to the 79% level. There's a little bit of an imbalance in here that maybe needs to be filled. So it's worth watching that level tomorrow. All right, so I'll just be watching at these high levels tomorrow to see whether price can be nice to you. All right. Now from a down, this could stay range bound for weeks if it wants to, whatever it does from the interest rate decision. There's the buy side as well. It could come back down to day support here, 61.87, where it held late end of the week before and then early part of last week. It held there to trade up. We could come back down to 61.87 and hold as support to trade back up as well. There's 2 sides of the market on that pair at the moment, with it being range bound. But I think the higher time frame trends is more dominant to the downside. So I would be looking to the sell side if it could rally rather than the buy side to buy back up. Don't forget, we've got this underlying US dollar strength at the moment. And while I'm talking, the pound's dropping to the low of the day. So, you know, underlying US dollar strength in the market. So I would much more favor the sell side on these pairs to the US dollar. So just dropping back to the pound, it's heading down. But, you know, I don't sell at the low of the day. If you do, well, there's the low of the day. And what's the euro dollar doing? All right, euro dollar didn't manage to get up to a high level rally. And the Aussie, all right, so these pairs to the US dollar are at their lows, still moving down. All right, dollar Canadian, very range bound, day support, day resistance. From a weekly perspective, we've got all these higher bottoms coming in play. I'm anticipating with the US dollar strength, we're moving up. Last move up, we held at monthly resistance from over here to the left, if you keep going left. So it's rather range bound, but it's just maybe got a little more bias to the upside with these rising bottoms. But really last week down here on the test of day support was your opportunity to get long as you started to head back up. Now you're getting very close to resistance. That's not where you want to buy. So it's always a good time and a poor time to trade. This is a poor time to be a buyer. If you're already long, great. You're just waiting to see if resistance can break to move up. Now, price could hold at resistance. So if you've got the mentality to trade to the sell side of this pair, 135.53 is your day chart resistance that we failed at last week. So that's last week's high. So if you got much more of a sell bias to this pair, there's your area to watch for failure. Last week's high and 135.53, your daily resistance over here. Okay. I think it's more to the upside though in general terms, but we could fail up there and trade back down. Depending on what the US news brings, and if you like to trade the dollar CAD, depending on what the US news brings later in the day, we could just trade up to there, hold. Then you might see a lower time frame set to trade back down. It is range bound. We could simply hold between 134.06 daily support and 135.53 day resistance and stay range bound. All right, dollar franc is putting in for you a higher bottom here. All right. We'll just continue with daily resistance at the 90 level. We did trade up last week to test weekly resistance, putting in a further higher bottom. So we've got a higher bottom, higher top, higher bottom, higher top, another higher bottom forming. You'll see that that pullback on the 4-hour chart was a 79% pullback. There it is. So I would anticipate if that day trend is going to hold now, we're going to move up to retest 90.59 where we failed last week to maybe get up to monthly resistance at 90.84 and towards the 127 extension. All right. It's not an easy area to be a trader at right now. You're at the 90 level that's been holding a very strong resistance. So if you like to trade this pair, you want to start to see 90 become support. So over the next 24 hours, can we move up? Do you see an intraday dip back to 90.02? And can it be support? All right. Let's just drop it down. So that's 79% pullback yesterday. I just want to see what it looked like on the 50-minute chart yesterday. Now there it is. Showed you a very good setup last week, just a trend line break. Trade north last week on the dollar franc. There was a nice trend line break. 79% pullback over your day chart range. Depending on what the news does today, you could watch for a further pullback to 89.72. You've got the central pivot here as well. Look for a pullback maybe to that area to find support. See how it was support here? So support here, here. False broke below, back above. See it rejected it there. Held here. So I will definitely watch that area today for a pullback if it comes around when the news comes out. But if it doesn't do that moving forward, I would let this move up and then watch 90.02 to 90.100 be support intraday, maybe tomorrow or the next couple of trading days. Can it pull back to that area to be support for an opportunity to buy to move up? Okay. All right, dollar yen. We're just testing last week's high at the moment. Per day resistance area there. So from the weekly perspective at the moment, this weekly top, we are now in a clear uptrend. It was questionable last week. We had the lower top, higher bottom. Now we have a higher bottom, definitely a higher top. We have more weekly resistance over here to the left at 139.38 and monthly resistance at 141.53, which could be a nice long-term target at the moment. That area that I'm discussing from the monthly perspective is from over here, way back in 1991. So trend is holding, yields are climbing on 2-year and 10-year bonds. So, you know, dollars getting stronger, yields are rising. But we are holding at this top at the moment. It's struggling up there over the last 4 days. If you get good at drawing in your support and resistance, that is telling you that at 138.74 at the moment, you do not want to be buying anywhere close to there because the market keeps holding and selling down from that level. At the moment, now that we've moved above weekly resistance now, 137.90, you got day support there at 137.76. Might just put that line in so we can see it on a lower time frame. That's the area where you want to look for a buy. if you can pull back down to that area. All right. I will just watch to see if price could pull back into this area and hold for support. All right. Well, you don't want to be buying into resistance. Let's just have a look at the 15-minute chart. Well, we're getting support at the central pivot point. So if you like the pair, I mean, I would prefer to be down here on support, but we're definitely seeing a trend line break at the moment. It's getting support at the central pivot point. Very limited risk to take that trade if you just put your stop below the low here. It's limited risk in terms of pips. There's no more than 20 pips risk there. But I always like a support level in my equation when I'm looking for a turnaround. So my support's down here. 137.90, 137.76, or even the figure 138 to 137.90 down there. All right, and if you drew a fib across the range from, that's the lower yesterday up to there, 62% level comes in at 138.01. 79% level comes at 137.78. So the 62 to 79% area as well overlaps with your support. So lower down would be my preferred option, but I mean, maybe it doesn't want to get lower down. It is showing you a intraday reversal there at the moment at the central pivot point. And the final one, let's have a look at gold. This is holding to a downtrend. This is the area I've been discussing as where support could come in. It did that on Friday, but then yesterday was negative and moving down today. So it may well be breaking below this weekly support area. That fib's not valid anymore. So here's your weekly look. Are we having a triple top up here for a complete failure on the monthly chart? If we trade below last month's low, we're going to have an outside rejection candle. That's very negative. All right, that'll be a break through this area here. So that's, that's the last line of support there, 1959.74. Day trend down. So, it's not the perfect spot to be a seller in at the moment. Don't sell into support. So through the week though, if we clearly break that level, watch that level to be resistance, getting in on your 4-hour chart even. Watching a clear break below there. And then these lows here formed, do they become resistance then for a further lower top to form on the 4-hour chart to move down? All right. Looking a bit negative, that gold. It's looking like it's topping out. So if support breaks, 1959, weekly support, that is the line in the sand. If that breaks, then we could well be moving all the way back down the range. What we are definitely seeing is US dollar strength coming in, pairs to the US dollar moving down. We know if you watch the market last year when the US dollar pairs were moving down, gold was moving down in line, correlated formation. This is just moving down with that US dollar strength that we're seeing. So if it's going to continue, we could well, and I can see some imbalances here on gold. In through here, there's an imbalance there for sure. There's a bit of gap there as well. So it would not surprise me to see price move down to there over the time to fill that area. All right. All right, so the outlook at the moment is looking a little bit like, US dollar strength's prevailing. So certainly as I've been talking, we've seen the, euro was up here. Didn't get up to where I was asking it to get up to, which was my level more for the news. So I will just keep dragging this down. The news can still drag it up to the 79% level. That's your 4-hour range. It's going to rally at some point. Let's look to sell a rally on the 4-hour move back up. If it keeps moving down, keep dragging the fib down. All right, so into Tuesday, we're seeing some negativity versus US dollar. Aussie's getting close to day supports. Aussie yen, maybe moving back up from there in the short term, but trend of the day is down, failing it up there. If you don't have access to our Telegram channel, contact Nathan, because I gave you the whole trade setup there today. How it could have said when I did my analysis when that candle was in here, and I was looking for a trend line break, price to break down and retest. It actually retested here and then retested there. So can it break down and retest and hold at resistance? So it's held there twice to move down. And that could be the top of the week. It actually could be, it's not the top of the year. Sorry, it's not the top of the month, I should say. But it's very close to the top of the month. Top of the month's here. So we're very close to the top of the month, and we still have a good week to go. We could be down here by the end of the month, depending on what the rest of the month brings. All right. So we're definitely seeing some form of reversal on some of these pairs at the tops, especially Aussie yen here and the New Zealand yen. So I got short the Aussie yen today. I'm going to see if I can get short the New Zealand yen if I like, however it sets up tomorrow after the interest rate decision. Might not give you the best opportunity because it may just drop depending on what comes out, or it may move through. But it's always tricky when you've got an interest rate decision. Price is going to move one way or the other, and if you're trying to get short, for example, and then it just moves and it moves short, you just can't get in, can you? You need to be in before the move, which can be tricky. All right, any final questions before I go? Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything coming in. All right, might just pop back to the news just to review, because I know I had a problem showing my screen properly, so I quickly reviewed it. So we do have 11:45 p.m. tonight, the US manufacturing and service PMI data. Tomorrow midday, these are Queensland time, New Zealand. Official cash rate, expect 25 basis points of a rise. 4 p.m. for the pound, CPI data expecting a decline on inflation figures there. Bank of Governor Bay speaking later in the evening. He may well talk about those figures. Talking twice there. And in the morning of Thursday, we got the FOMC meeting minutes. I don't know whether we'll get any surprise from those meeting minutes. All right, and we've got Thursday evening, US prelim GDP QQ. And on Friday, this will be very volatile. Core PC price index coming out 10:30 p.m. Friday evening, just to finish the week off. All right. And we have some holidays coming in Monday. Lots of holidays. Don't see an Australian holiday, but holidays, UK, French, German, US. So sometimes Friday can be a difficult day or an aggressive day when there's a holiday. People are either squaring their positions off or doing something crazy, or they may square their positions off ahead of Friday because they want to have a long weekend. So just be aware what's coming up. All right, everybody, get your levels in. Know where the news is coming out. Look for, try to sell a rally at the moment on those pairs to the US dollar if it can give it to you. And I'll catch you later in the week. Catch you tomorrow in our Telegram if you've got access to that. Other than that, tomorrow we're going to go through pivot points. Go to the webinar page. I'm going to take you through pivot points, intraday key support and resistance levels, all based on my 50-minute charts. If you get my chart layouts and templates, the pivot points plot automatically, so just contact Nathan for those, but I can tell you that tomorrow in any event. So I'll take you through that tool. I've been using those as a reference for intraday support and resistance for the last 18 years or so. Started using those back in 2005, and I still use them every day, certainly from a reference point. All right, so that's what's coming on the webinar front tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll go through pivot points if you have the time. Okay, everybody, thanks very much. And if you have the time, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you don't have the time, I'll see you whenever you have the time. Thanks, everybody.